Welcome to Rise to Lead, the podcast where heart-driven leaders come together to inspire and innovate. They will share actionable tips and insights that help you lead your team more successfully, advance your career or business as a leader, achieve greater impact, and experience deeper fulfillment. I'm your host, Regina Huber, guiding you through deep conversations about leadership that's rooted in service, freedom, and the desire to leave a positive mark on the world. Welcome to today's episode of Rise to Lead. I'm delighted to share today's guest with you, Annette Stewart. Welcome, Annette. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
And it's such a pleasure having you. Well, let me first introduce you to our dear listeners, and then we'll jump right into it, okay?
Wonderful.
Okay, so Annette Stewart received her undergraduate degree from Texas State University and completed her Juris Doctorate, and I have to read it correctly, at the University of Iowa College of Law, where she participated in the University of Iowa's International Law Program in France and London. She is also a graduate of the University of Michigan Ross School of Business Executive Program for her MBA. Annette has close to 20 years of experience working on Wall Street, including companies such as Citadel, Goldman Sachs, Market, PwC, and is currently a senior director at Royal Bank of Canada. She is currently also the president of the Financial Women's Association, and that also is called FWA. That's the acronym. I was an active member of FWA and of their leadership team myself for a few years, and I co-chaired a couple of committees, and I spoke to some, at the FWA events, and I think that's how I met you, Annette.
Yes, definitely. And it's good always to see you as well. So you're very active, Regina, in many, many areas.
Yes, and I know you are too. And what I really want to say is, if I look at you, I don't see those 20 years of experience in your face. So you must be really great at self-care.
Thank you. I think I also hold it in a lot, but no, it's resilience. Can I just
Yes.
tell you to be here for 20 years? But no, thank you. When you said that, I'm like, oh, wait, yes. Everyone wants to say they joined at 5, right? But nonetheless, resilience, I'll say.
Yes, I think we have that in common too. We've gained resilience in our very own ways, right? And yeah, so that's how I met you at the FWA. And you know what? You've always stood out to me as a very kind woman. And that's also, and you come across online as a kind person too, like in your LinkedIn posts, for example. But that's definitely not the only reason why I invited you to be a guest here, Annette. I know you also have a wealth of leadership wisdom to share with us today from your roles in the financial services industry, and of course also as president of the Financial Women's Association. So Annette, yes, absolutely. So Annette, tell us a bit more about who Annette is, how you got to this place, to the successful place that you are at today. And yes, just allow our listeners to get to know you a bit better.
I appreciate it. And thank you. When I took the presidency of the FWA, I told a story about my grandmother. Her name's Esperanza Moreno. And she had a 3rd grade education, and she worked on the fields in Tyler, Texas, which I'm from Texas, originally San Antonio. And she walked with so much authority for someone with a 3rd grade education and basically helped raise me as well. And I'm the first in my family to graduate from college, let alone law school and getting an MBA, et cetera. But it was because of her that pushed me to say, you can do better, you can do more, and pushed education and going to college. So I think for me, kind of growing up in difficult, times and learning essentially that education can help be that equalizer that helped open the many doors for me. And I say, you mentioned about kindness. I want to be kind because I always try to be empathetic. I had a difficult time growing up, and, poverty it's tough. And I guess I always have this empathy on people that we never know what they're going through. And I'm talking about personal relationships or, work issues. And so I guess I always try to have that. Maybe I can be that smile and that kindness to that person for that day. So that's a little on me, self-made in that sense. And I was the first to graduate, but not the last. I had two sisters that then went forward and graduated from school. And I like to think we all changed our pathways in life and our generations from the past as well. So that's a little bit up from that end. And I think why from the FWA and the mentorship perspective, and you see me speaking and giving back, it's because I know there's a lot of people we can help be a great person and giver to and sharing that kindness. So I hope that helps, but that's a little bit on me. And Esperanza, so I was her promesa. I was her promise, and I'm still trying to make her proud.
Okay, la esperanza, la promesa de
La promesa.
esperanza se cumplió. Okay,
Sí.
that's beautiful. Okay, so yes, I just quickly want to share. I don't know if you know this about me, but I grew up on a farm. So I definitely know what it means to work on fields and, how it often can be and how much work it is, what type of work it often is, especially when you have a bad year of harvest. It's just really admirable work in my eyes, and I so appreciate working, actually, also working at times, but growing up on a farm and having that experience, it was extremely enriching as well.
I didn't know that, Regina, about you. And I can tell you it's that resilience, that hard work I'm sure you took in with you, as was shared with me from my grandmother, that helped also. Maybe that's where you get your push to know that there's more out there. I mean, there's greatness in doing what we have to do to make our way, if it's farming, whatever we do, but there's more we can do. And I think it's trying to harness that.
Yeah, it's my parents gladly were always really generous in a way that they allowed us to choose what we wanted to. So we could choose our own path, and they would always support us, which is, as it sounds to me, what your mother did as well, right? So
Definitely, it was a good push, right? But go ahead, Regina.
right.
So you had that
Yes.
push too.
No, absolutely. And I think my push came from my dad's adventurous spirit in a way, because he was very adventurous in his spirit. He couldn't always travel as much as he wanted, but I sort of did that for him. And so, yeah, we all get something, some type of inspiration from our parents for sure. And that's what also is a big part of our stories.
Right.
Thank you for sharing that, Annette. So tell us why you are passionate about heart-centered leadership in particular, and what does heart-centered leadership mean to you? We already heard kindness, right? But what else?
Well, I think for me, first of all, when you're a good leader, I think it's overall, how can I collaborate, cooperate, bringing people together, right? And overall, that leadership model is bringing people, even those that don't work directly for you, but somehow in your camp of working with you. And so to me, it's along the lines of that great communication, that ability to inspire folks to understand the mission. Maybe the mission is finishing a project from a work perspective. Maybe the mission, if I go back to the FWA, is raising money to help these students, make their way as well through school and follow their career paths. But overall, finding that inspiration, sharing vision, hopefully that can bring that cooperation and collaboration and be successful. That's what I see. And we have to be the glue to bring it together, which is not easy. and I think that's the trick of it. But how do we sell that vision to people? How do we sell the strategy? But once people buy in and you show you care and that you're on their team, great things can happen.
Yes. What I also find can be extremely helpful in this sense is to have them participate in building the vision
Yes.
as far as
Agreed.
possible. right? It might not always be possible, but when possible, like in a team, that is always really helpful, because if I have co-decided something, so to speak, then I'm of course more invested in it. Right.
And I think you have a great point, because even at work, it's along the lines of talking with a team, maybe sharing an idea, hearing the idea, getting it refined. When people feel they're a part of the idea, you get their buy-in quicker than if I say, this is what we're going to do, X, Y, Z, here's the timelines. It's more, what do you think we should do to get to this end result? And talking through it. I might have my ideas of what should happen, but I need it to come also from the group and that sharing. And I agree with you. And we'll be successful together if we all feel we're a piece of that idea.
Absolutely. And if we don't ask, we might just miss out on great ideas and perspectives that we haven't even thought of.
Yes.
Other
Agreed. And you got to
potential
make it a safe
solutions.
space to share though, Regina, if you don't
Right.
mind me saying, right? Where
Yeah.
you're kind of calling people out. There's the introverts and the extroverts, and that person that's always talking, but
Yeah.
you've got to get into the folks that are maybe not talking, but you have a great point. Get those ideas out, because I know you have an idea.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know you're always up for lifting others up. It seems to be a passion of yours, which I share as well, by the way. I believe that also flows into what you just described.
Well, I would say, I think that's the key. I feel we all have a part to play in this world, and we should lift others up. Why bring people down? And I've gotten to a point in my life where I just want to stay positive. It's unfortunate. Sometimes you want to stay away from negativity. That could be people as well. But it's a little bit on, how can I be that positive light? And how can I lift you up? Because I've got to tell you one thing. There's this analogy on, what would you tell your best friend? If your best friend is going for something, you're going to say, go for it. You got it. But what do you tell yourself? Sometimes you tell yourself, oh, you can't do this. It's horrible. That's not for you. The self-talk we tell ourselves, you think about, would you ever tell that to your best friend? And the answer is no. So why do you tell yourself that? And so a lot of what I see in lifting people up is understanding people do have some self-talk, and you need to try to see if you can cleanse that and help them move forward.
Absolutely, because we are our own worst critics most of the time, and we tend to put ourselves down, and we don't even notice it sometimes. We don't notice
There's
how
so
we
many
talk to
books on that.
ourselves.
Right. And Regina, I know there's a book called Chatter from Ethan Cross, who is a professor at University of Michigan. We did his book for our book club at the FWA, and I've done it for a book club at my church. And it talks about the psychology. Sometimes it's from as a child. These things you hear, sometimes it's hard to kick them out. So it's a matter of just getting that mindset and changing it forever. But you're right, Regina, it's hard. And I don't mean to make this sound that it's easy, but it's also recognizing it's there. And as you lift others up, maybe you can help them recognize as well that they're great.
Absolutely, that's what it's all about, to get that sneaky subconscious programming out of our minds, right? We also hopefully have some good programming though, so we want to focus on that. And that sometimes helps just direct us away from those negative what if questions, and replace them by self-empowering what if questions. For example, I love self-empowering what if questions. What if I could do it? What if there was a solution?
Yeah,
So,
I agree. Remember, it's like that question. Well, what if they say no? Well, what if they say yes? And you'll never know if you don't ask. And this is for salary negotiations, for contacts, for people to help you get a job or help you to advance. Why not ask? Create that opportunity. But you don't ask, you don't know.
absolutely. And use your network, which brings us to our big topic for today. Let's talk about networking, Annette.
Okay,
Networking
let's
is
talk.
something. Sorry?
I was going to say, let's talk. Yes.
Let's talk. Great. So networking is something that a lot of people dread. other people maybe love it, but it can be daunting for people, especially when you start networking, when you don't have a lot of practice and you start networking maybe in all the wrong places where people are not necessarily kind or friendly or patient. You know, I had that experience myself at some point in the past, many years ago, when I was at a place where I literally left crying. I went home and said, I'm not going to go out networking again. It's a very unfriendly networking circle. And I was just rebuilding my confidence after a very painful experience that literally left my confidence below zero at the time. It was years ago, you know, but maybe some other people are in a similar place, or even if they're not in such a drastic place, maybe they still just don't feel comfortable networking. So let's talk about what can help them.
Okay, so I think first of all, utilizing something like LinkedIn is excellent. And I would just say, encourage you all, connect with us, right? Connect on LinkedIn, start to see engagements of folks, connect with your old work colleagues. First, use that forum. That's one thing I would say. Give that kind of networking and make sure you engage in people's posts. I think it's great because then they will see you as well. So that's a form of networking. I'd also say, if possible, join organizations like the Financial Women's Association. And I'm sure there's other organizations if you're in different areas and different career paths. Join these organizations that usually have a plethora of people that you can meet and help you as well, just in that network, creating that network of support. So look at organizations, look at LinkedIn opportunities. And I would say when there are in-person events, which some of these organizations may have or your work may have, be present there. Put the phone down, be present, try to go up. I know it's tough for people. I'm actually an introvert as well. I have to push myself, but I usually go for the folks that are standing by themselves, the folks that are maybe over to get an hors d'oeuvre or something and just hanging out alone. And I'll go up and say, my name's Annette Stewart. It's good to meet you. And just reach out. So I've done that. And then that's led to more people coming to meet you, etc. But I think it's really you taking that initiative, be it on a LinkedIn, on organizations, on in person, and just getting your name out there and making sure when you do meet people, you're connecting with them as well, however that is, on phone or on LinkedIn, etc. So make sure that you've got to get yourself out there and see this as an essential task because everybody needs a network. Yes, I'm currently working right now at RBC, love my job. I still need a network. You can't say I have a job, I don't need a network, or I have friends, I don't need a network. We all do. And you never know, even if it's not for you, maybe you can help connect people. So that's a few things that I would say, Regina, and open to your thoughts on that as well.
Yes, and I've made a note of a few things that you just said. I wanted to pick a few things up again. First of all, yes, your network is your net worth. Some people say, never neglect it. You never know when you need it. Plus, as you said, it's a really beautiful thing to be a bridge for people, to connect others. Also, you never know what comes back from that. You know, somebody might, if you are an entrepreneur, a business owner, somebody might introduce someone who could be a potential client because you did them a favor in the past. But it's not even about expecting something back. I also want to stress this, right? It's about doing it with pleasure. And the favor back might just come from a completely different corner. But there's always something coming back at some point, I have also found, right? Or
Oh,
from
yes.
some place. Yeah.
I was just going to add to everything you're saying. I mean, I think it's a benefit to be that connector and to be able to also just enrich your network. And you never know when just there's that opportunity. I've run into folks who say, you know, Annette, my daughter's in a career crossroads. Can you talk to her? And I'm so happy to do that for folks, you know, as well. From my past, I worked with at different firms, etc. And because I hope one day someone might do the same for my daughter, you know, Paige as well. So it's things along those lines. We hope that if we can help others, maybe that help will come back to us as well. But networking is, let's just see, how can we help each other? It goes back to lifting people up. And that's what the network can do. It can lift you up when you need it as well.
Yes. It's also sometimes just really nice to get out and away from your desk and have
Oh,
that
yes.
different experience, meet new people, have some fun, and then you never know what else comes from it. Even if you don't have a specific goal for that one event or for that one evening or at that specific time, right? I also want to pick up again something that you said. Yes, go up to that person that stands there by themselves, right? Alone, because they are actually the most grateful usually. So especially if you feel a little bit hesitant in networking situations and not completely at ease, that's your best, easiest way to connect with people and to make an and to have a nice reaction, to call it something. Um, and again, that person might be of great value in some other ways too, or maybe it's just a nice chat. It is still of value in my eyes.
I agree. And again, that person you might just be making their day because they're probably so nervous to be there. And by you going up there and saying hello and just a smile can make such a difference, right? And you could also be giving them some confidence. And I love your point. And this person could be just amazing. It's just a matter of they're alone and what am I doing at this networking event? But nonetheless, that's why I seek out folks like that. And then if anything, if I know someone in the room, and I do this a lot with the FWA, I'll say, hey, I want you to meet some of my friends, and I'll bring them over and I'll introduce them as well, building their network. And I found that to be so beneficial. So even if that person and we might have connected just on the face, but they make a future best friend of someone else that I've connected them with, then I'm happy. So it's just a good opportunity for us to help each other out. And so that's why I think I look for that. But I also think if you're nervous, if you look for that as well, you're going to find a common ground there and just some folks, and activity builds activity. And I think you know this, Regina, when 2, 3 people are talking, more people come over. That's just what happens.
Absolutely, that's what happens. Yes, beautiful. Now, I also want to say something about the FWA real quick, because it was a really good networking group for me in the past while I was a member. Then I was traveling all the time, so it didn't really make that much sense. There was this time when I left, and now I'm often abroad as well. But it was really a great group for me. For example, I did get, of course, some clients from my speaking engagements with the FWA, but also just from networking events. It is a very welcoming group. I want to say this to everybody who considers joining. Maybe you are in the financial services industry. I wasn't even in the financial services industry, and I joined anyway, and I made my contribution. The more active you become in a group, the better, because the more people see you and know you, of course. As a member of the leadership group, I went to the meetings. I found this also extremely interesting and enriching. I learned something that was actually of value also working with my clients, because most of my clients at the time were in the financial services industry, and they still are. So that is one aspect of it. And then, of course, because I co-organized events, again, I had automatic visibility. I think there's so many advantages, and we're coming to the strategy of networking in just a bit, because this already ties into this topic. How do you strategically network? I know everybody's busy, and maybe some people, they have a lot of practice. They are not nervous, so they don't need to go just out and socialize and get the practice. Not
Yes.
everybody has the time for that. But so how do you then strategically network? What's your advice on this, and what could that look like?
Okay, no, definitely. And I've got to say, for fwa.org, check it out. But Regina, even if you're abroad, you can still join if you want it to from abroad. And we have a lot of Zoom events. So I just wanted to say that. And I do events monthly called Transition Tuesdays, where we talk a little bit and get a network on just different topics, like about networking as well, or about the productive perfectionist. That's next month. But nonetheless, how do you strategic network? Let me tell you, there's 2 ways. There's the work way, and then there's the personal way. The work way, I have to say, you do it almost by just your deliverables. and doing great at work, and then ensuring that you're sharing that with others. So you need to make sure you're getting that time. You can go through your manager and say, listen, I want to break into some more visibility. Who do you think I should talk to? I think usually you know who you need to talk to in your work, and somehow getting that one-on-one time to say, this is who I am, this is what I do. So strategic networking, as I always say, the most important decisions about your career happen when you're not in the room. And you know why? It's because everybody knows about you and they're talking about, oh, you're great, and we want to advance her, or I don't know her or him, so I'm not sure how to advance. So I'd say strategic networking and work, prove it with your deliverables and make sure you're highlighting the work you're doing. From outside of that and just connecting more broadly, it's you taking that leap. I like LinkedIn. I've reached out to many people on LinkedIn that I didn't have any kind of connection with, except I saw what they put out there. I liked their positivity. I liked what they were doing. I wrote them an email. If you're a premium network member, you can do that and then say, I really love what you're doing here. I'd love to connect with you. And we've set up chats, Zoom chats. I've actually had dinner with people that I've met on LinkedIn, Zoom chats and greetings, because you feel like you get to know each other when you engage. So I'd say you got to break out of that comfort zone, reach out, be it LinkedIn or organizations, and you've got to just grow and nurture. It's a garden. It's a garden of nurturing of this network. That means you have to contact maybe once a quarter. Maybe it's once a month. Maybe you're just engaging in posts. So make sure you maintain that. It's not a one or done Zoom call. It's more than that. And then from the work end, you kill it with delivery and the great things you're doing, and make sure you're talking about it and that people know about it. So that's why I say, Regina, I think it's kind of two ways, the work way and my personal way.
Yes, I love that. And I also use LinkedIn primarily when online. Okay. I still love the in-person networking the most. Personally, but yes, of course, we also need to do the online networking, and it can also be a lot of fun if we do it, if we bring the right energy ourselves, and if we, for example, Annette, I got a speaking engagement at the New York Stock Exchange just recently in April, just because somebody said to me, somebody had seen me post uplifting content on LinkedIn. I had never met this lady
Congratulations, by the way.
before.
Well done.
I had never met her before. We had a meeting with her colleague from the same organization, from the Stani organization, and yes, so I spoke at that event, and it was a huge success. So you never know who sees your posts. I want to say that too. Yes, reaching out in DMs, direct messaging is for most people, it's most meaningful. However, if you also are inclined to post, and entrepreneurs do that and business owners do that often a lot more than employees, but also a lot of employees do it too, as long as they're not too tied up by their companies with compliance. And I understand that sometimes it can be a bit restrictive depending on where you work. But if you can post and you post content that's valuable, that is uplifting, that is high vibe in a way, then people also will automatically be drawn to you more, right? I also want to say something else. For after each FWA event or any networking event really that I went to in person, I always, even already on the subway home, would connect with the people I had met on LinkedIn. Sometimes you don't even need their email or their business card for that, just with their name, unless they're called John Smith, right? In which case it's a little harder because there are too many. But, then usually it's not hard to connect with them and build that first connection. And by the way, even if you don't have a premium account on LinkedIn, even if you don't have a paid account, you can still send messages. It's a bit more limited in the number of messages now, but you can send messages as you ask people to connect with you.
Yeah, I found that meaningful too. If folks put in something in a message to connect, like, hey, Annette, I met you at this conference, or hey, Annette, I'm also a member of the FWA. I'd love to connect. Whatever it is, if you can put that little message as you even seek a connection. So, Regina, maybe to your point, as you're seeking the connection, I think you can write a message in there.
Yes.
That's also a good way to be able to do that and to connect. It's also a little better than just sending the connection, unless you talk and like we're talking, saying, I'm going to send you a LinkedIn right now, and
Right.
then you're connecting. I think that's great. But if you walk away and it's been a couple days or later that night, I might say it was great meeting you at X event. I hope we can connect and speak more, Annette, whatever it may be, just to give them a little bit to jog their memory on how they met you as well.
Yeah, especially if your LinkedIn profile photo is from 20 years ago, which it shouldn't be.
And
Right.
that's true. Like my hair has grown much longer than it is in my profile right now. So I feel like you're right. I need to do another picture as well. Hopefully people still see my face, but what I mean is you're right. You do want to make sure you represent yourself, well on your picture that's updated. And I would always say for LinkedIn, just a side note, your resume should match what's on LinkedIn. So it really should 100% match. So just to make sure, aside from maybe some other awards or something you might want to add more in LinkedIn, I guess you wouldn't add on your resume, it really should match. So hopefully people will remember you talking about, oh, they worked at RBC. Oh yeah, that's Annette from RBC. I recognize her, and send the connection.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a whole big topic, LinkedIn.
That's another topic. Yeah, agreed.
Exactly. So yes, let's talk a little bit more about mentoring, because you've already shared so many strategies for networking, unless you want to add anything specific right now.
I mean, I would just say with a confidence,
Mhm.
connect with people. Keep that confidence in yourself, connect with people. You never know if you could be a connector for someone or you could be their blessing. Who knows? So just get that confidence in you and connect. That's all I would say. But I think we gave them a
Absolutely.
lot of good strategies on this one, Regina.
Absolutely. Totally. And if you still feel unsure about confidence and how to build it and how to really prepare quickly when you need it the most, then you could always check out my book on Amazon, Speak Up, Stand Out and Shine. That's where I share those tips,
That
actually.
is
Yeah.
exactly what Regina talks about a lot. So just to give her a plug, she can help you as well. I always say, if you do find you need help, get a career coach. There's never any harm in that. And just to help lift yourself up. And sometimes we do need someone to look at us and to give us feedback on ourselves that maybe we can't see. We have blind spots. And I guess it's more of a side note. I've used career coaches in the past. And I do think it's so important to get someone to give you that blind spot. Remember, I talked about the best friend syndrome. Your best friends are telling you how you're wonderful, you're great, etc. And I love that. That's why they're our best friends. But sometimes you need to get someone to really say, okay, Annette, I think you can work on this or work on that. Because we do want to improve and we want to have that impartial voice. But that's just a side note. So going into networking, if you find the competence and there's things that you need, maybe that career coach can also help you go over that hump and move forward.
Yeah, it's definitely the coach's responsibility to push you a little bit more and not just yeah not just confirm you every time you talk to a coach. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. It's that's also maybe, we haven't really talked about mentoring yet, but I think there's also, we can talk in this context a little bit about the difference between mentoring and coaching. So let's just talk about mentoring in general first, though. I know it's a big topic at the FWA, and I know you've done a lot of
Yes.
it. And I know there are mentoring programs at the FWA as well, and potentially also at your firm. I don't know whether you have those. So first of all, let's get clarity about what mentoring even is. Can you
Okay,
talk
so
about
for
it a little bit?
you got it. So from a mentoring perspective, again, remember me, first gen, third
Mhm.
grade education, not a lot of folks around me, but I realized that the folks that could were mentoring me. Mentoring means you're advising, you're supporting, you're hopefully assisting and giving some good ideas how someone can grow and get better in life and career, whatever it may be. That mentorship from a high level usually comes from family that we see that. But from a career perspective, we find you join a new bank, for example, or a new firm, you don't know much about maybe personalities, things along those lines. Sometimes it's that person to tell you, hey, I think it's best for you to make sure you always turn this in at this time. Hey, this is how this person works. Be aware. A little bit on the know-how, how to maybe work within your firm, how to advance, how to talk to your boss about a salary increase, about whatever it may be. Mentors can give you a little bit of that dialogue and help you, give you that insight. Again, it's more focused on, it could be at the particular workplace that you're at, and it can be people you meet through organizations, but there's two different types, right? Because if you meet someone that's mentoring at your workplace, you get that inner knowledge of maybe the politics of the place as well, and that's helpful. From an organization standpoint, you also get that mentorship of, well, this is how it works in my area. Maybe there's ideas you can bring to yours. But overall, it's helping you get better from that mentorship perspective. And we help with Seton Hall and Baruch over at the FWA. We're helping students understand, what should your resume look like? How should you interview? How do you answer certain questions? What's your greatest weakness? That one that gets a lot of people, etc. So that's that mentorship where I feel an opportunity you can give back to others. Think about students. They don't have a clue. They're still trying to get the job. And then when they get in, how do they talk to their managers, etc. So that opportunity feels more better for me because I feel like I'm giving back. But boy, are you helping somebody else and getting a job, etc.
Yes, sorry, absolutely. And, sometimes mentoring is confused with coaching or sponsoring. So let's talk
Big
about the
difference.
differences a little bit. Can you define the difference, first of all, between mentoring and sponsoring in a few words to get us started on this topic?
So there's a whole psychology, as you know, in the mentoring and sponsoring, but I will tell you in a nutshell, the sponsor is the person that needs to just see all the great things about you. Okay. They only know the good things about you. They don't know what the mentor knows everything about you a little bit, more of a personal relationship and discussion. The sponsor sees your work effort, sees what you're doing there. The sponsor is the one behind the door saying, I think Annette should be promoted. I think Regina should be, whoever. They are saying, give them a challenge assignment, help them out. That sponsor is someone behind you that's actually kind of lifting you up right there in the workplace. You may not even know you have a sponsor sometimes, but again, you want to put out your best self from the work end. That sponsor is who's lifting you up. Later, when you do find out who that sponsor is, or maybe you kind of know who they are, you're making sure they see the best in all that you do. So I would say that sponsor, only the best, they're lifting you up. The mentor, listen, I've had a bad day. I don't know how to handle this person. What do I do? That's the kind of conversations you're getting, just to really get that intimate feedback, I would say. So more of an intimate feedback versus a support that will hopefully lift you up in your career path. That's what I see for the mentor and sponsor.
Right. So the sponsor advocates for you, and the mentor not necessarily, although they could also. But they have more the role of really providing advice to you, being there as a sounding board sometimes, and yes, and everything else you just described.
Yeah, no, and a mentor can maybe sometimes be a sponsor.
Yeah.
I do agree with you, and they're your best references in that sense. For those that might be looking for a job, think of old mentors are probably going to be your best references. But I do just find that sponsor effect to be more of within the C-suite, somebody senior, somehow they know about you and they know only the good things, and it's helping to promote you.
Yes, they talk about you to others in a positive way, to put it in very simple terms.
Yes, and you need that positivity, and they're
Yeah.
helping when it comes to bonus time, when it comes to advancement time. You need those folks in your corner. And the matter of how you do that is usually just your delivery, your work, and ensuring people are aware of your work. And that can get up and create sponsors for you.
Yes. And then just to put it also in the context with the coaching, I believe that the main difference to me between coaching and mentoring is that a coach really pushes you to find your own solution.
Well, a coach is also an impartial person that comes in, sees things in a fresh perspective. This is why I love the coaching aspect, and kind of tears down a few things in a positive way and says, let's rebuild this. Let's make this better. Let's make that better. So there are a different set of eyes that can really help you be better. And again, they see blind spots that maybe your mentor doesn't see, and that your sponsor obviously doesn't see as well. And again, it's about just strengthening, growing, and you need that person on your side. It's like I think about the boxing match and the person is there kind of getting you ready. That's the coach getting you ready.
Exactly. So the outside perspective is a very, very important aspect of it. I see that all the time also with my clients. So I know that you have also personally mentored people, and you gave us some examples within FWA, but maybe can you describe the results or benefits of mentoring someone, like you personally mentoring someone? What did they get out of it?
Yeah, so I think for me, I've been fortunate to be paired with a lot of mentees, and I think I also relate to being first generation. So I've been able to help them get their resumes done, get, ready for interviews. I helped my last mentee, Bianca, just kind of talk her through her last year at Seton Hall, and she just got an offer for JP Morgan Chase. So it's just seeing folks go from graduation to having employment and being able to ask you questions. It also makes you feel you've got knowledge here you can share. And I think to me, that's so fulfilling that why do they have to go through all the falls and the tumbles I had to go through to get through life? I can give them more advice and maybe it's less falls, less better opportunities for them. So I think for me, what makes me happy is seeing my mentees and several of them, just advance in their work, either advance in their position at work or go into jobs. And to me, I feel like if I even add a small piece in that, I'm grateful.
Beautiful. Yes, totally, Annette. We don't only learn our lessons for ourselves, we also learn them to pass them on to those who have open ears for them. Not to impose them on anybody, but to offer them, right?
No, exactly. I love it. But there's such a good internal feeling, isn't it, to help another person, if I just make it a little more general. And from a mentor mentee perspective, specifically for college age, folks, that's really special for me because you can give so much to them. And that's why I encourage folks to just be mentors, because you might think, oh, I have nothing to give. I don't know what I can give. You have so much to give, especially as someone coming out of school and sharing your experience. But that's just the fulfilling part.
Absolutely. And I also think we always learn ourselves as well as mentors. There's always something we learn in the process too.
I take away so much in learning from them. And it's funny, I'm probably learning more of the social trends in some of them, but I'm also just learning about how people react and a little bit on how the job market is, et cetera. So you're right. We're definitely learning.
Absolutely. I always say anyone who crosses our path becomes our teacher in their own way.
I love that. And let's continue to teach each other, right? I love that.
Absolutely. And also being open-minded in that way, because not thinking, oh, we have so much experience, so much wisdom that we certainly have. But, it's not the only type of wisdom. There are other types of wisdom, and younger people can have wisdom too, right? So that's really important to acknowledge. Okay, so we've been talking for a while. It's been wonderful to listen to your insights and to share them with our listeners here of this podcast. Now, where can people find you if they want to connect with you, Annette?
Definitely find me on LinkedIn. And I'm sure Regina, we're connected. People might see that. There's probably a lot of Annette Stewarts, but you'll see me, Annette Stewart, working at RBC and FWA. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Feel free to message me. I'm always happy to talk with folks as well. And that's probably the best way to catch me. I'm at RBC. I'm with the FWA, so fwa.org if you want to look it up. You'll also be able to connect with me and get my email through that as well.
Yeah, and on that website, you can also check out the events, both online.
Oh, yes. Yes, we have our International Business Conference coming up in France in March. So
wow.
I'm excited. I'm preparing for that as well. We're going to France, Paris, more centralized. But to your point, this is a great community, great people. But folks like Regina, and I'm just so thankful to meeting great people. Also, I stay in touch with on LinkedIn. So remember, utilize that LinkedIn network. I just got to go back to that because it's such a great way to connect us, right, Regina? We don't need that Rolodex of paper back in the day. We can just like look you up and connect with you here.
Yeah, I remember the shoe boxes of business cards.
Business cards.
I've moved so often that at some point I had to get rid of them because I moved too often. So I did go through them though and really sorted them and looked who was I connected to on LinkedIn and who was I not. So I definitely went through that exercise and it took quite some time, but it was worth it. Okay. Any last words or tips that you'd like to share before we sign off?
First, I just want to say thank you, Regina, for having me. It's always a pleasure. And for all of the listeners, if we've been able to say anything to help you, I'm thankful for that as well. I just hope you just walk with confidence and kindness and know that, I'm cheering you on, wishing you the best.
Beautiful. Thank you for this message. And with that, I'm saying goodbye for today and until the next episode.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Rise to Lead. Keep shining your light, standing up for what's right, and inspiring others to step into their brilliance. If you like this episode, please give it a 5-star rating and subscribe to the Rise to Lead podcast on your preferred podcast app. Until next time, it's Regina Huber, and in the meantime, remember to rise to lead.